right, can I retire at 55 with $500,000? That's what we're going to look at here. Now, we have to take in some characteristics of this person that is retiring at 55. Now, we already know they have $500,000 saved for retirement. Asking the question, can I retire with $500,000 at 55? So, they're age 55. Now, Social Security at 67 is going to be $2,800. That's what I found is a good average for people at full retirement age. Retirement expenses, $50,000 a year. That's the average across the entire United States. It could be different based on where you live. If you're in LA, it's going to be different than when you're in Tampa like me. So $50,000 is the number we're going to use for this scenario. Obviously, your scenario is going to be individualized for you living in Toledo or you living in Des Moines, wherever you might live. The rate of return for the money that's in the market is going to be 6%. That means our investments are going to stay invested in the stock market. They're going to pay us a retirement income, and we're going to assume a 6% rate of return for the rest of our life. Now, the stock market's averaged right about 8% since 1950, but we're going to use 6% because we're using our money to live off of, and we're going to use inflation of 3%. That's just an easy round number. Inflation's averaged right about 3.24% the last 108 years. So 55 to 67, we want to get the full retirement age. If we're retiring early, we want to try to get the full retirement age. So $500,000 in retirement assets, $4,166 is our monthly expenses, okay? Because that's $50,000 divided by 12. Just an easy way to do that. So we're going to need $4,166 a month off of our $500,000. Now, what I did, because I wanted to be extremely accurate for this video, down to the penny, I actually put this into my retirement planning software. This $4,166 is going to have inflation of 3%, but that's going to be calculated on a monthly basis as well. Normally, when I do a video like this, I calculate inflation on an annual basis, but I wanted to be so exact, so down to the penny, so you can answer the question, can I retire at 55 with $500,000? So this value is going to get inflation on a monthly basis. So $4,166 plus inflation is what we need off of our retirement investments from 55 to 67. We're going to earn 6% in the market, and there's 3% inflation, okay? So how long or what amount of money do we have at 67? Well, unfortunately, in this scenario, we have $0. It actually only makes it about 10 years, from 55 to 65. So, can I retire at 55 with $500,000? No, if your retirement expenses are $50,000 a year. So I come back and I say, okay, how can we retire at 55 with $500,000? Something has to change. We either have to increase the rate of return on the money in the market, we have to either lower inflation, or we have to lower our monthly expenses. I don't necessarily want to go down the risk scale to try to earn more income in the market, so we're going to leave that alone. Inflation's not going down anytime soon, so it's going to have to be monthly expenses. So let's use the same scenario. $500,000, we want to get from 55 to 67. We're going to have a 6% rate of return and 3% inflation. How much money or how much retirement expenses does that have to come down in order to accomplish this? Well, according to the software, again, I wanted to be very, very, very detailed for this. It's $2,500. So $2,500 a month is what statistically can be pulled off of this money to make sure it's going to last for the rest of this person's life. $346,000. So we've pulled out $2,500 a month plus inflation. We've got 6% on our money in the market, and we're down about, what's that, $160,000 in round numbers, 500 to 346. At 67 though, we're going to have Social Security kick on. That's $2,800. Our investments have inflated, or I'm sorry, our expenses have inflated from $2,500 to $3,714. So that's our expenses now. This is our Social Security. We're still going to get the same rate of return in the market when we're doing the assumption. So 6% and 3% is inflation. So now we ask ourselves, how long is this going to last? And based on inflation calculating on a monthly basis, a 6% geometric rate of return, 3% inflation, this goes to 0 at 95. So we get this person from 55 to 95 if their retirement expenses are $2,500 a month. We're asking the question, can I retire at 55 with $1 million? Now let's look at our individual again to remember our characteristics. We have a 55-year-old individual. They are single. Social Security at 67, $2,800 a month. And we're trying to get to 67 because that's the full retirement age. Remember, if you take Social Security at 62, you're only going to get 70% of your full retirement benefit. If you take it at 67, you'll get 100% of your full retirement benefit. And if you take Social Security at 70, you'll get 124% of your full retirement benefit. Because this individual is single, we're trying to maximize our Social Security benefit, which is why we're trying to get to 67, not starting it earlier, okay? Our retirement expenses are $50,000 a year. That's just the national average. Our rate of return for the $1 million in the market is 6%. That means this $1 million is going to stay invested. It's going to stay invested in high quality ETFs, dividend stocks, mutual funds, whatever, and it's going to earn a geometric return of 6%. Now we know the market doesn't move in a straight line. It moves like a roller coaster, like a duck, 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 brrr, duck, 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 brrr, and sequence of return risk, which is the risk that the market will go down in the first few years of your retirement. That is a real risk, and it's something that needs to be calculated. But on the board, we're going to use a 6% rate of return. The market's averaged 8% since 1950, so let's go back 2% to be more conservative and go to 6%. Our inflation rate is 3%. That's the 108-year average measured by the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. So we've got $1 million. We're 55 years old. Can I retire? Well, let's use the $50,000 in retirement expenses first. So we're going to go from 55 to 67. And we need $4,166 per month off of our $1 million. That's $50,000 per year. Now what we've done is we've taken this and I've used my retirement calculation software, my financial EKG, to make sure this $4,166 is getting that 3% inflation bump on a monthly basis. So instead of looking at it on an annual basis, we're going to look at it exactly like the Consumer Price Index. We're going to look at it on a monthly basis. 6% is our rate of return in the market, and 3% is our inflation. So from 55 to 67, we're taking out $4,166 a month. At the end of those 12 years, we'll have $856,644 in retirement savings. So over the last 12 years, we've taken out, what is that? About $150,000 in retirement income. Now we've earned 6% a year and our investments are down about $150,000. Not down because of loss, just down because we pulled out retirement income. Now from here, our expenses have gone up because of inflation. They've increased to $6,190, and we're kicking on Social Security of $2,800. 6% is our rate of return, 3% is our inflation, Now, the one thing I did not calculate on here, and it's really hard to calculate this, is a Social Security COLA increase. Now, the average COLA increase right now is 1.8%. That's what it's been measured since 1974 when they started measuring COLA for Social Security. So I'm just not going to calculate that in. As that goes up with this individual, it's going to be great. It's going to be gravy. But again, we're just trying to get a base case. So at this point, at age 67, we've got $856,000 in retirement savings. We need retirement income of $6,190. So we subtract out Social Security. How long does this money last? Well, this is out at 87. Which is pretty good. 87 years old. The average life expectancy for a male is 82. Average life expectancy for a female is 84. So 87 is actually pretty good in this scenario. And the rate of return that you would need on this money to make sure it lasted until 100 is only 7.13%. So you'd actually only have to earn 7.13% annually to make sure this $1 million lasts forever. Now, can you guarantee that you're going to make 7% every year for the rest of your life? No, which is why as a financial planner, we're going to look at a different scenario. So we've got $1 million. I want to get this just a few more years past 87. I'd like to get it into the mid 90s. I think that if you retire today at 55, healthcare is going to be totally different, so we need to push this number to the mid 90s because that's how long I think you're going to live. So when I go into the software and I say, okay, I want this to last till 95, 96 years old, what do we need to adjust? Well, we know we can adjust our rate of return. That's how much the money makes in the market. That's not always the best thing to do. We can take inflation and take it down. We're not going to do that. Or we can adjust expenses. Let's do that first. Let's adjust expenses. So when we do that, the expense number that we would need to make this $1 million last to the mid 90s is at 55. We're going to start with $3,800 in retirement expenses. We're going to use the same rates of return, 6%, and inflation is going to be at 3%. So let's go 55 to 67. At 67, we'd have $982,527. So as you can see, the difference here of, look at that, $130,000, or how about $120,000, because we lowered our expenses. What's that? 41 minus 38, about $300 per month. Now again, this $3,800 is getting inflation at 3% on a monthly basis, so it's an annualized inflation rate of 3% broken down on a monthly basis. So at 67, again, Social Security kicks on of $2,800. Our new expenses then would be $5,646 because they've grown from $3,800. 6% again is our rate of return. Inflation's at 3%. How long does this last? Boom, we're at 0 at 96. So 96, we've gone an extra 10 years basically from up here. Now, the rate of return that we would need to earn to make this $1 million last well past 100, it's really simple. It's only 6.32%. So now the rate of return from up here from 7.13 has come down to 6.32. So you see how you can really, when you're doing retirement planning, it's not an all or nothing. There's a lot of different variables that we can look at to adjust to give us the scenario that best fits our individualized needs. So can I retire at 55 with $1 million? Yes, you can if you do it the right way. Hey, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Bye-bye. Can I retire at 55 years old with $1.6 million saved for retirement? That's what we're going to look at today on the Your Financial EKG YouTube channel. I have a client, he's 53 years old. He's got $1.4 million saved for retirement. He lives in New Mexico, asking the question, if I retire in 2 years with a projected retirement savings of $1.6 million, Is my money going to last forever? And what about taxes? Should I do Roth conversions? Should I be looking at other ways to save on taxes? And how should I invest going into retirement? That's what we're going to look at today on the channel. I've got 3 specific scenarios to go through with you today. One scenario is going to be just if I retire at 55, how long is my money going to last? The second scenario is going to be, let's look at doing those Roth conversions if all else stays equal. And number 3 is, let's look at Roth conversions if taxes go up. You ready? Let's get into the software right now. All right, so here's our 3 scenarios. Retire at 55, no Roth conversions, 5-year Roth conversion, taxes go up. That's going to be the last scenario we look at, and 5-year Roth conversion. So let's go to the first scenario, retire at 55. And here we go. We got Jerry. Jerry lives in New Mexico and he's 53 years old. Jerry's going to retire in February of 2024. Currently makes about $10,000 monthly, so that's about $120,000 is his annual salary. Now, Social Security, we've looked at a couple different scenarios, and I'll show you that here on the channel. But we're going to look at taking Social Security at 62. That actually elongates his retirement income the most. Now, remember with Social Security, you take it at 62, you get 70% of your full retirement benefit. You wait till 67, you're actually going to get 100% of your full retirement benefit. And if you take it at 70, if you're an overachiever, a broccoli eater, then you get 124% of your full retirement benefit. You can take it any time between 62 and 70. You got to make a decision that fits your retirement plan. For Jerry, when we've gone through the different scenarios, 62 makes the most sense. So we're going to start there. He's going to get 70% of his full retirement benefit. So from age 55 to 62, most of his retirement income is going to come from his retirement assets. And then Social Security is going to kick on. All right. So Social Security, 62. So let's look at assets. So here's what we've got in assets. So Jerry's got a non-qualified account with $475,000 in it. That's like a taxable brokerage account. He's got that at TD Ameritrade. He's got a SEP IRA of $205,000, which he's putting in $2,500 per month into his SEP IRA. He has an IRA with TD Ameritrade at $475,000. He has a Roth IRA, so he's already got a Roth with TD Ameritrade at $222,433, and he's got money in the bank of about $50,000. So, all in total, he's got about $1.4 million in assets. Now, from a tax classification standpoint, because this is what he's concerned about, 47% of his money is qualified, meaning pre-tax. So all money that's pre-tax is tax deferred. Tax deferred means you're going to pay taxes on this money at some point. If it's an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, or a TSP, you're going to pay a required minimum distribution at some time in your life, whether that's 73 or 75, depending on your age. So for Jerry, he's concerned about taxes. So can we get more of this red off the screen and get it over here to more green? So we have 15% Roth IRA. We want to try to increase the dark green on this screen. Now, from a risk standpoint, risk is also something that he's very concerned about. Well, currently, we've got all of his assets, so 96% of his assets are at risk of market loss. Now, there's different classes of investments inside of his retirement investing account. So AT&T stock doesn't carry the same risk as Tesla stock. But even in his risk allocation, all of the money is at risk of loss. Okay? So he's got 96% of that. So he's concerned. So what we normally do is we do a risk assessment. So what a risk assessment allows me to do is ask a few questions, and the program populates how much he should have at risk versus how much he should have safe or as conservative as possible. Okay? So what dollar amount would you like to keep in liquid accounts such as checking, savings, or money markets? For him, $50,000 is all he wants to keep in the bank. And that's a good round number for him. It's about 6 months of expenses, so he's good right there. How many years can you let your assets grow before having to take withdrawals? This helps us determine how long you might need to leave your money invested. So we know 2 years. He's 53 years old. We're going to go to 55. So 2 years, so 0 to 2 is the time horizon before he's going to have to start taking withdrawals off of this money. What statement best describes how you feel about savings and risk? I do not want to see my principal amount decrease. I cannot afford a significant loss. If my interest or rate of return stays ahead of inflation, I don't want exposure to risk. If I can make a moderate interest or rate of return on my investments, I can withstand some market fluctuations. So that's one we're going to go to a little bit more moderate because he's 55. And what would you consider a reasonable interest rate on your investments? I'm going to say 4 to 6. And the reason I like 4 to 6 is because the market's averaged 8% over the last 50 years. That's with inflation included. We're going to back up 2 percentage points to 6. And I'm going to show you in the software where we're really going to back up later in life. Okay, so hold on for that. And risk tolerance, which one of the possible outcomes on a 1-year investment indicates the amount of risk you would be comfortable taking? So best case, $102,000 or a $2,000 gain. Worst case, a loss of 0. Best case, you make $4,000. Worst case, you lose 4. Best case, you make 8, you lose 8. Best case, you make 12, you lose 12. Best case, you make 16, you lose 16. For him, again, we're still kind of moderate. So 10 to 12 is okay. So we're going to save and close that. So when we look at the risk classification for him, 58% of his money needs to be in this green area and 38% needs to be in this red area. So that's something we can work on as we go through the EKG, as we go down the line. This is not going to be a situation where that's going to determine how long his money is going to last. It's just a differentiate of where do we need to situate? Where do we need to set his retirement investments? And that needs to adjust as time goes on. The closer you get to 60, 70, 80, your investments need to adjust with your age, okay? Now, from a rate of return, we're going to look at a portfolio weight of 5.79%. That means the investments that are in the market are going to get a 5.79% overall rate of return. And I'm actually going to show you, we're going to go a little bit more conservative because Jerry's kind of a conservative guy. So before retirement, so for the next 2 years, we're going to project his investments earning 6% a year. After retirement, from 55 on, we're going to show a 4.4% rate of return. So we're actually going to go back farther on the conservative scale. And the reason for this is he's just a conservative guy. And so I don't want to plug in 6% the rest of his life if that's not what in actuality is going to happen. Because there's a big difference in 4% and 6% with compound interest. Remember, God's greatest gift outside of Jesus is compound interest. And so the longer your investments have in the market, the greater compound interest is going to work in your favor. So if we're compounding 6%, that's going to be a lot more money than if we're compounding 4. So we have to project that out in the financial EKG. If you want to contact me, all the information is below. Thank you for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.